Tony Abboud, Executive Director of the Vapor Technology Association, joins us now. Hey, Tony.
Hey, Gerard. How are you?
Doing fantastic. Thanks for coming on today. Tell us about HB 916 headed to the governor's desk. What are your concerns?
Well, this is a bill that is really just going to hurt Mississippi small business owners by imposing Biden-era government overreach. I mean, this law that is restricting access to vaping products, which Mississippians and adults all over the country are using to quit smoking cigarettes, is going to take them off of the store shelves at a time when the Fifth Circuit has already ruled that the FDA's actions are both arbitrary and capricious. They didn't follow the rules, and the case is currently pending before the Supreme Court. So the Supreme Court could decide that the FDA violated the law, and yet Mississippi is about to implement that law, which is an implementation of all the Biden-era FDA's decisions.
Tony,
that's the concern.
Where does President Trump stand on this issue?
It's a great question, because in 2019, when he was being asked to do basically what this bill does, which is ban flavored vaping products, he said no. He said, we're going to raise the age to 21. That's the kind of common sense he had back then and he's talking about today. And since then, youth vaping has dropped dramatically. Then last September, he announced on the campaign that he is going to save flavored vaping again, because he pointed out that Joe and Kamala are trying to ban everything, shutting down small businesses all over the country. Again, HB 916 is going to do just that, and it's going to interfere with, frankly, the president's promise to save flavored vaping.
Tony, talk about the economic impact of the vaping industry on the state of Mississippi, just in terms of revenue generated for the economy, jobs, contributions, et cetera, to our economic benefit.
So the independent vaping industry, and we're talking about companies that are not owned and controlled by big tobacco, generates about $135 million in total economic impact for the state. It generates hundreds and hundreds of jobs and $32 or $33 million in wages and benefits to the people that are employed in this industry. From a tax perspective, we're looking at about a 77% loss on $23 million of state and local tax revenue that's generated by the industry. So these are real Mississippi businesses. You know, we're talking about folks that have built their businesses from the ground up, and they're kind of getting whipsawed by a lot of big money from out-of-state big tobacco companies that are trying to carve up the market. And that is not something, I think, that Mississippians should want to see happen.
And, of course, Tony, these products are subject to the full general sales tax rate as well, right?
Yeah, that is correct. So when you're not talking about just lost sales taxes, but you're talking about lost business taxes, because when these businesses shut down and those employees stop paying income taxes, you know, it has a big ripple effect on the economy. And this isn't the time, it seems to me, particularly when everybody knows that bans don't work. And make no mistake, this is a ban. And the reason I say that is because the way the bill was drafted, it's going to make sure that only the oldest, and I mean 10-year-old vaping technologies, are going to be allowed to be sold. But the newest, safest, and most innovative products that people are demanding right now will not be sold. And the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, at the Federal Court of Appeals, said this is a de facto ban. And we all know what happens when bans happen with popular products. Black markets erupt. And that is something that will have untold costs for the state of Mississippi, both from a public health perspective and, you know, it'll be impossible to enforce.
Yeah. What do you think the reason, Tony, is that the House, the Senate, the governor all seem to concur that we should pass this bill, this legislation that I believe was authored by Chairman Trey Lamar in the House?
Yeah, I mean, vaping has always been an issue that has caused a lot of conflict, and when there's a lot of big muddied interest telling half of the story, I think it's easy for legislators to understand that half of the story. But when you cut right to it, what they're asking for is implementing and making Mississippi the chief enforcement officer for all of the Biden FDA's decisions. I don't understand why the state of Mississippi would want to be in that role, because right now, as I said, those decisions are being questioned by the Supreme Court of the United States. And President Trump has said he's already said we're going to look at every single regulation to figure out whether or not it was lawful in the first instance. Mississippi should not be in the business of enforcing the Biden FDA's approach and their policies and becoming their enforcement arm. This is now, we have a new administration in Washington, D.C. This is a problem that needs to be fixed, and the misinformation that has been surrounding the vaping issue needs to be clarified. And the beautiful thing about President Trump is, like in 2019, he knows how to see through all of that stuff. And we believe that he will make the right decisions and do as he did in 2019 by raising the age to 21 and solving the youth vaping issue, and also protect small businesses. That's what he did back then, and I think that Mississippi should be in line with that and looking to find the common sense ways to actually protect youth, but also protect adult Mississippians' freedom to choose what kind of nicotine product they want to use.
So, Tony, help us out here. Does the bill, does it explicitly ban flavored vaping products, or does it kind of put in place some rules and regulations that effectively bans?
That's a great question. And you know how legislation works, right? It's all in the details.
Yeah.
First thing, Biden's FDA has effectively banned flavored vaping products, just like the Supreme Court has said. This bill ties Mississippi's decisions to the decisions of the FDA. So if whatever FDA has said is what Mississippi has to do as soon as this bill is passed. And the bill also, as I noted earlier, only allows products that are 10 years old. They were on the market in 2016. So none of the new and innovative flavored vaping products that have come to the market since then are going to be allowed to be sold. Because if you weren't on the market back in 2016 under this bill, you're done. And just think about that. Does that make any sense for consumers? Is anybody here really wanting the equivalent of an iPhone 7? I mean, these are technologies. They innovate, and they get better and better, faster and faster. And this bill is just locking the market into the oldest, antiquated products.
Okay, so it doesn't, because I'm looking at the legislation, that's why I asked. I reviewed it last night as well, but there's no provision that just says, hey, look, we're banning all flavored vaping products. But what you're pointing out is that it bans all those introduced post-2016, which essentially means you're back to whatever you had then?
Yeah, well, that's the first thing. The second thing is, since then, the FDA they've authorized one flavored vaping product.
I see.
Okay? You see? So whether it's a complete ban or, a 99.99% of a ban, it's going to have the same effect, because the small businesses are selling these newer, innovative, safer products, and they will not even be allowed to do that anymore, because we want these Biden-era policies put in place in Mississippi.